All right, I'm going to call a meeting to order. And I'd like to just start off the meeting by reviewing. I know a lot of you must know that one of our members, Bob Donahue, passed away last Thursday. And he was at our last meeting, and he was very, very active and vocal right up until our last meeting. So I just like to start our meeting with just a moment of silence for Bob. And then if there's any more discussion, we can continue that under new business. So we'll just take a moment of silence now in respect for Bob. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the agenda tonight too, Bernadette. We're going to start off with the renovation update between you and I. And the only thing I can add to that renovation update is that Bernadette got a hold of me and said she got a hold of Sparky, which is Gary Remlod, and he's supposed to get a hold of us, me, this week, that he's going to get in and start doing the lighting and putting the fans up. But virtually the renovation has come to a standstill since before Christmas. So I would say within the next 2 weeks, we should be finalizing the lighting at least. I mean, he can do the service whenever he wants, but if we can get the lighting and the fans up, then we can start organizing the museum and bringing stuff back in, cleaning it and whatnot. But that's all I have for that. So
just so all of you know, I'm planning on spending Saturday the 20th, is the Saturday, February 20th at the museum. I have a budget meeting for the library at Town Hall at 9. So after that meeting, I'm just going to go over there and see where we are. So if anybody wants to join me to go through things or start some discussions about organization, just let me know. And I'll send out a reminder to everybody, letting you know. But it'd be great if 1 or 2 people with us, we could start maybe having a conversation about reorganization.
Okay, at least that's on track. Then number 2 is the budget update.
Yeah.
From Bernadette. Yeah.
So we have in our gift fund, we now have $1,030.65. We've received $900 in donations. 9 $100 donations from 9 different people for the renovations. So that's good. That'll help us buy some small supplies and things we need as we're starting to reorganize some things. And then the municipal budget has $386.53 left of the municipal budget. So we've got a little less than $1,500 to do between now and July to buy small things that we might need. We could do another push on Facebook about the donations to try to see if they can get a few more donations. I don't know how to reach out to, I don't know that we sent it to the BBA. Pam, did you remember if we sent any renovation? Yeah, okay, maybe that's something that I can do, is prepare something to send to the Bellingham Business Association members to see if any businesses would like to be a sponsor. So I'll do that. I'll do that as a one more step to try to get more money into the gift fund. So I'll get that done. But that's it. We have, and then I think there's gonna be a lot of little things we're gonna need to buy to put the place back together. So we'll deal with those as we need them.
Yep, sounds good. I guess the next thing was the spring program update, and that's Bernadette and Steve. The
update is there is no update.
There is no update.
Steve is basically, I don't know if you want to tell Steve what we discussed.
I'm teaching a bunch of classes, so I'm going to have to shelf any programs until probably early summer.
So I think we'll just go along. We'll do things when we can do them. So that's we don't have any really plans for anything at all right now. But I think we have a lot on our plate anyway, so I don't think that's a big problem.
Yeah, because I'm sure we're going to have to get a lot of that stuff out of that Domino's pretty soon. Because
I think that's moving forward over the summer. So
yeah.
I think that's yeah.
So we'll have to move forward with that.
Yeah.
So then we'll go on to new business. Following the agenda here is working with the Mass Historical Commission, Steve.
Yeah, so I've been going back and forth a little bit with Chris Skelly, and I don't know how much other members have had experience working with Mass Historical. A lot of it was news to me. Some of the, but Chris joined me to a newsletter, and so he's been sending me resources that I guess from Mass State Historical Commission gets sent out to the local historic commissions. The reason why I got in contact with him initially was 462 Hartford Avenue, the Curly Farm. I just asked him, I don't know what I don't know, and is there any due diligence that is expected of a local commission member with regard to a property like this? And he kind of explained the process that, for that particular property, the ship had already sailed. But going forward, there were things that could do if we wanted to be more activist. And that, that's open to what, the citizens of the town want to do. But a lot of towns around us have construction delays that the commission, the historic commission in the area can invoke a construction delay to either, look at alternatives for demolishing a building. If it's historically significant, they might also have a historic district where the commission can actually interrupt construction plans entirely, not just with a delay, but actually interfere with it completely. So those are things that have to be incorporated in the town bylaws. Of course, obviously those interfere with an individual's property rights. So those are somewhat blunt instruments, but a demolition delay may be a reasonable thing to do to give us an opportunity to either document something before it's destroyed, or maybe offer the people of the town an opportunity to suggest alternatives or to invest something like perhaps, we'll just as a what could have been, if the Curly Farm turned out to the inhabitants of Bellingham to be a really important thing, they could have with a construction delay, they might have had a fundraiser where they offer the owner, we'll give you, 300 grand for the house. You can have all the property. We just want the house, and we're going to renovate it and use it for something in the town. That's what you could do. In this case, we don't have any recourse. If no one showed up for our meeting here, but if somebody here were to say, I want, I would like for the commission to pursue the owner, I would not be opposed to doing that and just say, hey, as people in town really want this thing, is there something you can do? Can you donate the building? Can you donate a piece of the property? But it's mostly, I think, working on the goodwill of someone who owns one of these properties. And the demolition delay just gives us an opportunity to buy time.
I think it's a moving forward thing. Now that we know that list of all those historic properties, whatever that Macris thing that we that we have a list of so basically the commission has reported to the state, what was it, like 50 something properties, Steve? I forget the number, that are potential historic buildings, and that was something that was done by commission members before us. So those are on a state website that they're there, and so those are the properties that have already been identified. Now we as a group could add more things to that list if we think there's something that's missing on it. But I think it might be worth us going through those properties at some point in the future and saying, okay, which ones do we think, like the town hall is on there. Obviously, if something were to happen at town hall, we'd want to be involved in preventing that from being demolished. I don't think that ever happened, but just as an example. But a lot of them are private homes, and they're not public property. So what is our, and I think that's determining what our mission is and what we think we should be, and what the community wants us to do too, obviously, because we are representing the wishes of the community.
I know that, I'll just give this as an example. The Curly Farm was essentially unknown to me. It was a bit of curiosity for me, and it's a late federal style post and beam. The owner did offer me the opportunity. I walked around inside of it. I photographed it. That the main supports for the ceiling, there's no nails in it. It's all mortise and tenon. It's really cool. It's a cool example of what it is, but it is rotted out. You know, it's fallen down. But you would have to know something like that exists well in advance if you wanted to do something to protect it. I mean, the demolition delay to me seems like something we would probably want to propose, you know, to the selectmen, you know, to see if we can get that incorporated as a bylaw.
So Steve and I had a conversation with Jim Kupfer, who is the town planner, about all of the, what to get his input on what he knew about the Curly property when the question came up. And he gave us a whole lot of information that was really, I knew nothing of it. So I think it's a new way for us to look at some things in town. And since then, I've actually gotten 2 letters from 2 different things that I want to share for you. One is from the Norfolk County Registry of Deeds about the Community Preservation Act. And basically your town can vote to become a participant in this statewide Community Preservation Act. And there is money. So basically I think it was Bellingham, if we were in it, would be eligible for like $200,000. But so let me just read to you what this says. The fees for the Community Preservation Act are set by state legislature on documents recorded at the Registry of Deeds. The Charter of the Riverside, oh, there's the amount of money. Bellingham is $219,000. The Community Preservation Act was signed in September of 2000. There are 186 Massachusetts communities that have adopted the act. 16 out of the 28 communities that make up Norfolk County have adopted the law. As of December 2019, fees collected increased, so they get $50 from every time they record a new deed. And that's where the funding comes from. Marjorie's coming in, so hang on a second. The Registry of Deeds, at no additional cost to the Commonwealth or local communities, collects these revenues once a deed is recorded and forwards the money to the Department of Revenue on a monthly basis. The funds are then forwarded to the Commonwealth, are redistributed back to the communities that have the Community Preservation Act. So I think this is something we need to look to the future. We don't have really time now, but should we be trying to join these other 186 communities that are part of this Community Preservation Act and find out what the funds could be used for and how it might benefit Bellingham. So that was the first letter that I got, that I emailed Dennis and said, I don't know what this is, so can you help me with it? I got some email. And the second one, we received an email from the Bellingham Housing Rehabilitation Program. So this is a program in town that helps low-income residents renovate their properties. So it gives them low or no interest loans for windows, roofs, whatever. And basically they're required to notify us and the State Historical Preservation Office anytime they're rehabbing a house that's more than 50 years old. So the one I got was from 18 Stephen Road. It's a 58-year-old. I looked at it, it's a little cape on Stephen Road. I don't think there's anything, but they do notify us of those things. So this would be an example. If we're getting these notifications, then we'd know more about what's happening. I mean, that is only for someone that's applying for these low interest loans. But I think when we talked to Jim, he was amenable to letting us know when they have information about properties that are being sold or potential up for renovation or up for destruction that the planning board knows about. So we'd get some kind of a heads up on those things so we could be more involved in those issues. Mm-hmm. Did I get that right, Steve? Yep,
actually, and it's interesting. I was sent that same document, not the second one you mentioned, not the email from the housing folks, but the one from Norfolk Registry.
That was addressed to me, so maybe we all got them as commission members.
That's what I was wondering, if other people got them, if it was, because I did get one. Did everybody get one, or?
I got one.
Yeah. So I think we need to find out more about that as time goes on, to see, because if it's 219, I don't know if it's just 1 year, $219,000 a year. 2020 would have been $219,000. That's a chunk of, that's a lot of money to be passing up. Now, I don't know what the requirements are to be eligible for it, but I think we ought to be looking into more what this is and what the requirements are, and should the town adopt it.
Are you talking about the CPA, Bernadette?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I know a number of people who are on commissions in other towns.
Yeah.
And I had a direct and personal conversation with Mike Soder when he was still a selectman, and he shot me down cold and just said, nope, we can't do it. But he's not a selectman anymore. So perhaps there will be more amenable
Well,
people, but.
So I don't know what the process is to get it approved. Does it have to be approved by the selectmen, or does it go to a vote, or what is it, what is the,
There's a whole process.
Right.
Franklin just approved theirs, and it has to go to a whole town vote,
right?
but it has to get put on the ballot to begin with. And it's a tax.
Right.
You're agreeing to tax yourselves, and God help us if Bellingham agrees to tax themselves.
So it'd be an additional, so when every time someone sold their house, it's an additional fee. It's not part of a fee that's already out there.
No. It's not. It's a 1% tax on all real estate, I believe. This is the Community Preservation Act.
Yeah, what this says is fees collected were increased to $50 for most land documents recorded and $30 for municipal lien certificates. So it sounds like when a property is transferred, it's a one-time thing. I don't know.
That's not the Community Preservation Act.
That's what this says.
Really?
So I think we need to do more research to find out, because if it is an increase on property tax for everybody, that's a whole different thing than a one-time $50 fee to people who are buying or selling property. That's a whole different.
That may be a portion of it that I haven't even heard of. The major part of it is you vote to either have between a 1% and 3% tax on all properties in town every year, and that money goes to the town for use of historical preservation, town recreation, and buying open space.
Okay, so that I'll do some more research on that and report back what that's all about.
Okay.
So
I know the numbers they talked about seemed a little odd to me. They said $217,000 for like Attleboro or something, and I thought, how many deed transactions?
yeah, right. Yeah. Well, Bellingham is $219,000. That would be like 100,000 properties, or no, 1 million properties sold at $50 a piece. So yeah, that's
not where the money is coming from.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is a surcharges. So yeah, you're probably right, Marjorie, that it is a property tax, which you'd have to get people to vote for, and that would be a whole another.
I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that input, though.
You're welcome. I have another Zoom I've got to get on pretty soon. Is there anything else that I can add for right now, or? So
we were just talking about the Curly property, and I'll get back to you on. We had just a minor discussion about it before you got on, but it's kind of a done deal at this point that it's too far gone to do anything about it. The building is too. And we did have a discussion with the town planner, Steve and I, and Steve actually went to the property. Were you on when he was talking about that? Steve visited the property and took some pictures and, got some information for us before, but it's coming down.
It's been sitting there for 40, I think I was in the house nearly 40 years ago, and it's been empty almost all that time. I believe it was Jean Curley, I'm not sure. Can't remember the woman's name. I believe she was an artist in town. And,
I remember when we first moved here, which was 30 years ago, that they were selling wildflowers from the property. Now, I don't know whether somebody was living in the house or not when that was going on. They might not have been. It might have been unoccupied, and they were just using the land to grow wildflowers. But
no.
Okay.
You can only do so much when it's private property.
Right. So we can have a conversation after for your project there. Okay.
Great, thank you. I will let you guys go and see if I end up being on the board. I'll be happy to join future meetings, and see you all later. All right. Take care. Good night.
I'd like to throw something out there too, where Steve has visited the property. Just throw something out there and see what the board feels about it. Is that if we get any more donations, the possibility of the Historical Commission purchasing a metal detector and getting permission, if we can't halt the demolition, but get permission from landowners to do some metal detecting to hopefully get some artifacts from the property.
You don't need to buy one. The library has a metal detector you can borrow.
Wow.
Is that right?
Marconi Baumfee would totally be open to that. He actually let another individual come in and strip the house before I got there.
Oh, is that right?
Yep. Yeah, the mantle, everything was gone.
I was gonna say I know on properties, it's probably because I watch too much TV, but you know, when people go on properties and they're searching properties with metal detectors, they're coming up with all kinds of things. And if
You
it's an
definitely will.
old
That-
property, you know, it might be a good idea to at least give it a once over.
Yeah.
You know, maybe come up with something. I don't know. I just threw that out there.
You'll definitely find stuff there. That's 217 years old and it's been private property the whole time. It's 16.6 acres there with frontage to Route 126. It's about as prime real estate for treasure hunting as you could get.
I know.
I think we have to wait for the snow to melt.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Most definitely. Just so also, Pam, just to let you know, you're muted. So if you say something, we can't hear you. But you know something, I noticed that I skipped over something that was very important that we have to vote on, and that's the minutes of the last meeting.
I did notice that. When I pulled my paperwork, it's like, we didn't vote on the minutes.
No, I hope everybody had a chance to review the minutes of the last meeting. Entertain a motion on it, or corrections, or anything that needs to happen.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of the last meeting.
I'll second it.
Motion's made and second to accept the minutes of the last meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, now, I think we covered did we cover the town bylaw demolition delay historic district? I think we did.
Yeah.
Touch on it if there's any more. And the historical commission, number four was the online presence.
Yeah.
We didn't really get onto that.
So Steve and I were having a conversation about, an email conversation about our online presence. And right now, I am the only one that's authorized to edit the town website for the commission. We have a page on the town website. And Steve has graciously volunteered to be a second editor to help with the content. So I'd like the group to approve who the editors of the website are. So I guess we can probably vote on all three of these together because they all are about the online presence. The second one is we haven't finalized where it's going to be, but we want to have a place to share our files online so that everybody can access them. I'm thinking of a Google Drive, a place that anyone that's on the commission could go. Does everybody here have a Gmail, or has everyone used Google Drive before?
I
Yes.
never did. I know where Google is. I got Google Chrome, but
I mean,
that,
basically, if we create something and store it there, you can share it with other people by sending them an email with a link, and then they just click on it and it opens the file. So it's more of a place for us to store photographs, store things that, I mean, if we get them on the website, they're on the website, they're stored there, but just a place to store things, files. Steve, are you good with Google Drive, or would you prefer something else?
Myself, I use Dropbox and Box for the stuff that I do. At work we use OneDrive.
Okay.
So I do have a Gmail account. I stay away from Google. It's just I get flustered when I get near Google.
I don't like Google's email, Gmail. I really don't like. But there's so many organizations I'm a part of that Google Drive has become the way they share files. That I don't know if we can do. I mean, we could choose to do a OneDrive, like get a Microsoft Office license with like 5 people on a license, and then we could have a OneDrive space.
That would probably be excellent, right? Because then you could, with that license, would that give you SharePoint access?
You know, I have a OneDrive at home, but I don't know. All I use it is to store my files, but it probably does give you most of Microsoft's. I'll investigate what we get. And I think we can make a decision. Does anyone else want to be part of the decision what kind of storage space we use? Pam, do you have a preference where it is?
Dropbox and Google Drive, but I don't know what OneDrive is.
Yeah. Okay. Well, OneDrive is Microsoft's. So you would buy a Microsoft. I have at home. We have a Microsoft Office license that I think it's for up to 5 users that we get terabytes of space and access to OneDrive.
To do more than 5 years. How many people are ultimately? How many people will be on the commission?
There's up to 7 people on the commission.
Well, what does our town have? I wondered about that. There's a maximum of 7 according to the law that was used to create the concept of historical commissions. But each town can have between 3 and 7 members. I don't know if our bylaws have a specific number.
Well, I think they've traditionally had 7, so I don't know if it has it. Yeah, I don't know what the bylaws say. We can check that, but yeah, we've had 7 in the past, but what the number is. But there's also, the other thing we could do is we could use just the generic history@bellinghamma.org email address for that and give everybody the login to the OneDrive, so everybody uses the same login to get into the shared files.
I think that's probably easier, and unless we have a problem where we have somebody that's abusing it, then you
Right.
could lock it down. But yeah, I mean, I like the idea. I think having a SharePoint, if that comes with it, would make documents very easily accessible to other members.
SharePoint, is that there? It's not like shared. Is it like a Google Drive? Is that what it is? Or is it?
SharePoint is a website that puts a front end on the data, so you have files and stuff in there. But so if you go to the website, you just see a list of the files. You can click them. It's a little easier to get at.
Than just the file structure in OneDrive.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's I guess Steve and I can work on that, and if you guys we'll bring back to, maybe we don't need to do this month. We can bring back next month what our recommendation is. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. And the last thing as far as online presence is Steve and Rick, when we're corresponding with people, they're corresponding from their personal email addresses. So I talked to Karen in town IT, and we're proposing that the leadership of the commission, which is the chair, the vice chair, and the secretary, have a town email address to communicate with members of the public. So it's not coming from people's personal email addresses. And she's going to create 3 of them: history chair at bellinghamma.org, history vice chair at bellinghamma.org, and history secretary. And then we'll each have our own email addresses. I'll give you the credentials, how to log into it and how to check it. You can, if you prefer, you can have it forwarded to your personal email, so at least you know when something's there to go look at it. And I can help people set that. Rick, I can help you set that up if you need it. So at least you know something is waiting just for you. I'll continue to get the general history ones that just come in from people that are randomly, but if somebody wants to specifically talk to a commission member, they can, or for us to reply to people so it looks like a professional reply.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah, you want to look into that and see how we go from there on that. So do we need it? We're going to need a vote on all of that right now?
I think just one vote to authorize Steve and I to work together on professionalizing the online presence. Does that seem like a simple way to do this?
All right. I guess I'll start by making the motion.
Okay.
As you said, for you and Steve to research the online presence and I guess get back to us on
I'll second it.
motions made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay.
Ayes have it. So that's good. We get that done. Number 5, it says here, determining the pros and cons of establishing historical society or Friends of Bellingham Historical Commission. Bernadette and Steve. I know I've always said that we should have something like the library has Friends of the Library. We should have Friends of the Historical Commission to help us out and to help us reach our goals. Historical Society, I know nothing about it, so I'll leave that for you guys.
So I did send out a little blurb today about what I researched to find what's the difference, what are the definitions, and what are the roles. So Historical Commission, the agents of municipal government responsible for community-wide historic preservation planning. So that's our role, is historic preservation planning. And then there are 3 other things that we don't, to my knowledge, we have none of. A local historic district commission, and that's, you were talking about that earlier, Steve. That is it's an authority responsible for regulatory design review within historic districts. We don't have a historic district as far as I know, so there's no local historic district. Historical Society, this is interesting. A Historical Society is a private nonprofit that often preserve history through museums, house museums, and maintaining collections and programs. So we have the museum, but we're not the nonprofit. So we're kind of in like a hybrid or a no man's land. I don't know how best to describe what like we have a mixed message there.
Mm-hmm.
And then friends groups are nonprofits that raise funds for local historic commissions. And I was looking online, the only one I could find in Massachusetts that had one was Brookline that had any online presence. So I don't know how popular Friends of Historic Commission groups are. Steve, do you know anything more about it, or?
I think basically they operate under the same rules. So whether you call it a friend society or a historical society or something, I don't think functionally it's all that different. It might be one is more to buttress an existing, commission to do the things we can't do. But I think that it would be great because we're constrained with some of the things we can do, right? And there's a lot of the things that we already do that are kind of outside of our mission. And it's not that I don't think we should do it. It's that, there are things that, that a historical society, they can have their own set of laws and they can respond to things quicker. So you want to make an acquisition, for example, like we're going to be talking about that sheet of paper, right? If that was a hot item, a historic society could react instantly and just buy it. You know what I mean? Where we have to vote on the funds and everything else, and maybe that's not really what we do. Acquisitions for a museum is kind of outside of our bailiwick. We do it because nobody else is doing it, and it's important to the town. But that would be better served, I think, by a historic society.
I mean, the only funds we can raise right now is through our gift fund. We can accept donations through a gift fund, but we really can't. You're talking about just buying things. We'd have to vote to do it, right? Exactly.
Right. We can't fundraise really either.
What's that?
I said we can't really do direct fundraisers either. We can't say make cookies and sell them. You know what I mean?
Right. The other thing that we could do as far as budget things, we could allocate. We could say we're going to spend $500 a year on acquisitions if we made our budget look that way. But that would be then we wouldn't have to vote at every meeting to acquire something if it met the criteria. But it's still not going to get us, a whole lot of things. I think you're right that I think a long-term goal should be to have a historical society that, with volunteers maybe runs the museum, and then we're more doing, the commission itself is doing the higher level preservation kind of work. So these are really big picture down the road things, I think.
Just
but they're good discussions to
volunteer for it. But I think that I think a lot of the interested parties that might be willing to do that or get involved are probably following our website, following our Facebook page.
Right.
So if we start throwing the line out there and saying, hey, would anybody be interested in forming a society? I'd be willing to help them, make it happen. I have formed corporations. I haven't formed a nonprofit before.
I've done nonprofit applications. I have experience. I did it for some library groups. So I've made organizations 501c3. So I know how to make a charity application to the IRS to get that authorization. So that's something we could work together on to get that. But yeah, you need some committed individuals that are not going to abandon you. Once it needs committed individuals to run it. Same thing, it's another volunteer board. You need a president of the same thing. You need a structure.
I think it'll eventually happen, but I think it's going to take time.
Yeah.
But
so I guess
I
today,
think if we get the museum organized and looking nice and people coming, maybe then that's the time to say, hey, we need help keeping this going. Get those people that are interested in that next step.
Sounds good. So, I mean, as a group, does anybody have any dissenting opinions? I've heard 3 people say yay. Are there any dissenting opinions on that?
Well, about what exactly?
Us promoting the idea that and supporting a historical society. Like, one could form without us. They don't need permission from us, but I think what I would like to do is advocate and promote that concept eventually through our website, through the museum itself, and through the Facebook page, and try to motivate interested individuals.
Okay. That makes sense.
Mm.
I mean, I don't know what the ramifications would be for how did the, if the museum itself is town property, is that, you know, it's obviously a town building. Is the contents of it, does that all belong to the town? I don't know. Like, I know Franklin has a historical society. Their museum is run by their society, I believe.
It is.
So I don't know what their, you know, who owns the stuff. Is it the nonprofit that owns the stuff, or is it the town that owns the stuff?
Well, in our case, the town owns the stuff.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there might be a mix later on, but we would
Right.
have to be very careful about how we documented it.
Right.
Okay, so the one thing I would mention, and I'm not saying that this would happen, but I know that, you know, you have the Council on Aging, and then you have the Elder Service Group, and that's essentially the equivalent of what we're talking about here. The Council on Aging is the town board, and then the Friends of the Bellingham Elder Service Group is the support group that does the fundraising. And sometimes they're working at cross purposes, and sometimes you have little conflicts, and I don't want to say power struggle. We're not talking about a lot of power here anyway, but you know what I'm saying? Sometimes they're not jiving and meshing. So I think that's something to keep in mind, that could happen, you know?
We've had in the past some trustees friends issues at the library too. I think the biggest thing, what we've done is we've made like an agreement ahead of time of what the roles are. So everyone there's very strict rules of what this is the responsibility of this group and this is the responsibility of that group. And before, you know, to make a partnership with a group, this is what we want to have. We want to have defined roles of whose responsibility what is. And I think that's and there are, you know, there is a Friends of Libraries national group that actually has a sample for libraries to follow. And I don't know if there's something similar but we could probably adapt it because it's just for nonprofit groups, how to keep your fundraising arm separate from your elected or appointed boards.
Good, okay.
It is important.
Yeah. Anything else on that before we move on to the last item? Or one of the last items to talk about creating that inventory or top tier historical assets for the town, objects, property, and other categories.
So I have the Excel spreadsheet that Margaret Maxwell worked on, which in theory has most of the stuff that's in the museum. I don't know how complete the list is, but it's the things that were already inventoried. So I can share that with everybody and we can go through and people can say, yeah, that, you know, if you can from the description identify what the item is, which may or may not happen based on reading whatever description is assigned to it, you know. And I think that's why getting in there and trying to see the numbers on these things and matching them up to things and making sure that we have the best description we can in that spreadsheet is important. I think that's the next step. But I think as we identify things when we're going through things, we put them in a category. And I don't know what are the other categories we could come up with, but I think we ought to consider what those categories are. I don't know what else to be besides buildings and things.
Yeah, I know in Macris we have there's objects and properties that are listed in the Mass Historic Macris database. I was surprised I couldn't find our mile marker in Macris, which I thought that ought to be there. And if not, maybe we should submit it. But a lot of the properties in town, apparently there was a big push in 1999 to do this, and they went around and photographed a lot of the historic properties. That's the 50 that Bernadette mentioned earlier. They also photographed a lot of stuff, and I've been driving around looking at them, bridges, stuff like that. Bridges I've driven over 1,000 times and didn't even know they were there.
Did we send everybody the link to that Macris database?
I believe so.
I think we did. If I didn't, I'll send it out again. That way you just click on the link and you just go down to Bellingham and it shows you all the things that the commission has already reported to Mass Historical as historical things in Bellingham. Or even if you just Google, it's MACRIS. If you Google Macris, it'll come up and you just search Bellingham and it will tell you all the things that has been reported.
I wondered if we as a group could, maybe pick out, each one of us our top 25 things in the town that we thought were important to preserve. Like that's kind of our key role, right? Is preserving. And we might not all agree on what the most important things are, but I thought if each one of us, 25 things, whatever they are, they could be properties, they could be objects, they could be whatever. Like on my top 25, I'm going to have those Thompson papers that I've been reviewing. I think those are a treasure. They're like a little window into, the late 18th century here in Bellingham. Probably the 1767 mile marker would probably make my list. Just stuff like that, and of course some of the properties in town too. The town hall, of course, would be on my top 25. So if each one of us, was willing to take that as an action item to come back to the next meeting and say this is, or communicate over email before that and say this is my list, and I'll probably send my list out, in a week or so, just whether or not anybody else does it, I'll just throw it out there. Because we got to the place where we're at with the Curly Farm because nobody thought it was important. And maybe it isn't. I don't know that would have been on my top 25 list, but nobody thought it was important. But in that case, it was complete neglect, right? No, I don't think any of us saw it coming. We didn't think about it. It just happened. And the only thing we could do is look in the rear view mirror and say, well, it would have been, it could have turned out the same way. And I'm not even saying it's a bad outcome, but it would have been better if it was a proactive process, to say that, a 217-year-old building is being torn down. We should have known about it earlier. We should have had a plan in place, so if it happens again, let's say there's the town hall or some other, there's some, the barber house, for example, near Depot Street, that's probably one we would want to know about if somebody was going to tear it down. And I would love to have a construction delay to say, look, we need to document that thing. That has a lot of historical significance, that house. So
same thing with the Eldred's house right across from us, across from the museum next
exactly,
to
the tavern.
Yeah, the Eldred's house. That's got a history of a post office, a school, or whatever. And then the right up on North Main Street, where across from Taunton Street, that used to be a tavern in the basement, if I remember correctly. And then just to name one more thing, is the Keystone Bridge behind Lake Street Auto, corner of Lake Street and Pulaski. There's a Keystone Bridge there in the woods that everybody, if you don't stop and look on the side of Lake Street Auto, you'll never see it. And that bridge has been there since the 1700s at least. I mean, it's.
So if I send out the inventory and the link to Macris, that might help brainstorm some ideas with people as to what to look at. But I'm sure we all have things in our head that we just know from driving by them or whatever. But maybe going through the inventory and looking for that the objects probably aren't as familiar to most of us, because unless you've been in the museum all the time, what we have in the museum is,
Well, as far as properties though, too, we want to keep an eye on Marcia Crooks, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I've talked to the family about Marcia Crooks. One of the things the family says it will not go to the town because she doesn't think the town has got the money to keep it. What they're looking to do, and they've got a lawyer looking into it, is that they will never sell the property for development. The property will remain the way it is, the way we see it, but they're trying to put it into something like the department, was it DCR or Audubon Society or something like that, who has the funds to keep the property up. I guess they feel that if they turn it over to the town, they'll just ruin it. So they want to keep it as open space. And I said, I mentioned to her, I said, I'm sure there's a lot of artifacts in there and around there. I mean, they've even got an old vehicle in that barn around the backside, but been in constant communications with them. But their line of thought right now is it's going to be 100% preserved and never built on. And it's
So-
gonna be for recreation and stuff.
I wonder if they've ever been in touch with the Metacomet Land Trust, because they're the ones that helped with Daniel's Farmstead. You know, in Blackstone, Daniel's Farmstead.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yeah,
I mean, that sounds like what it would be perfect for that property.
yeah.
Who did that?
Metacomet Land Trust.
Metacomet Land Trust. I know we did an 18th century thing there in conjunction with Blackstone Valley High School, and it was great. I mean, they had the kids build stuff for shop. They did food from the period. They had a huge event, spectators, the works. It was great.
Yeah, it would be good if they, I don't know how they're fixed for money right now either, but I know that they were, there was a whole thing, but they were key in getting that done. And now they have farmers markets there on Sundays. You can make appointments and tour the house. And I mean, it's really a nice thing. It would be nice to have at Bellingham.
I just wrote that down. I'm going to send an email to Marcy's niece on the Cape. She's a marine biologist, I guess, up there, and I guess her mother is Marcy's sister. So I'll throw that out there. I'm gonna say, you know, if you're gonna offer the property and you want it to be preserved, you know, look into the Metacomet Land Trust. And I'll mention the Daniels Farm too.
The other thing is, we were talking about, you know, photographing and getting pictures. Is that something we could approach them about doing before anything happens, that we could get pictures of the inside of these barns or the inside of the house or whatever? I don't know, how old is the house? Is the house 1800? I think the house burnt, I think it's a relatively new house. I think there was a fire, wasn't there, at some point?
It's
don't
gotta
think
go
that-
back
No.
at least to the 30s, I would
Yeah,
imagine.
I don't think the house is more than 100 years old. It's not the original house that was on the farm in the 1700s, I don't think.
No, I can.
But a lot of the
contact-
stuff probably could be centuries old.
Oh, they've got a lot of stuff in their old farm stuff, and
Right.
that not runestone, that grinding stone that's outside the museum.
Yeah.
Was found on a property along the railroad bed, which was used by the Indians to grind grain and stuff like that. So there's a lot of ancient.
Yeah, even just
Artifacts.
even if the things end up in the Metacomet Trust, getting photographs of them so we have them for, you know, to document would be a goal.
Oh, I wanted to ask you guys before I forget, since you mentioned, you know, natives and stuff. There are 26 prehistoric sites in Bellingham. Their location has been kept secret. It's a requirement of the state. Obviously, I think we should know where they are. They shouldn't be a secret to us. And I think that at least, you know, that thing on Maple Street, they asked me to go out and look at. I suspect that was probably one of them. And I wasted a lot of time getting involved with the geologist and everything when there's probably documentation already about it. So I don't know if any of you know how to get at that information or what tree we bark up to find out.
So they're historic, not historic, they're prehistoric?
There are 26 prehistoric sites in Bellingham. I read that. I was reading a document about the towns in Massachusetts, and then I went to follow up on that, and it said these are necessarily kept secret so that, you know, they're not disturbed. But I'm not sure where to follow up. They don't they don't show up in Macris because they're supposed to be secret.
So Steve, tell me about did you tell everyone about the arrowheads, or was that just an email to me?
I didn't talk to anybody about the arrowheads.
Yeah. So we got an email from someone offering to sell us. Was it to sell us arrowheads, or how did that?
They never followed up with me.
Okay.
I emailed them and didn't hear back. So
I was just thinking, because I actually have what I think, I don't know if it's an arrowhead or a thing that I live on North Main Street in my yard that we found that looks like either an arrowhead or some kind of a implement that I have that at some point I want someone to look at to see if they can figure out what it was. Because our land, obviously, we're on North Main Street. It was settled in the 1700s. We're kind of right across from High Street, that, you know, that general area, which was all settled.
where are you from? Where is it?
I'm on 114 North Main, kind of across from Oakwoods.
Oh yeah.
David, somebody's entering our waiting room. I don't know who David is. He's a little late. So And it was owned by the White family, WIGHT, the land, which is an old Bellingham name. Hi, David. So that's another, I'll Google this with historic sites to see if we can figure out what that is. So.
Yeah, I know there's also another that Johnson farmhouse on Allen's Way across from St. Brendan's Church. There's that little dirt road that goes up into the woods, and there's like 2 houses on it. Allen's, because I know I lived there years ago, and when I was out in the yard, I found an 1897 Indian head dime or something on it. I think the only other thing that I wanted to mention tonight, and I don't think we have to have an answer or anything, is just to put in your thought bank, is how the historical commission is going to address, I put his obituary on the historical commission for Bob on the website, but I think a statement from the historical commission would be appropriate somehow. And we lost Steve, so I'd like to. Steve knew him better than any of us, I think.
I just sent Steve a message asking him if he wanted to log back in, but.
They want to make us, yeah, I'll wait a couple seconds here if he gets back on.
I sent him a sorry. I think maybe we could do something where we could write something for the bulletin, Pam.
Oh, like an obituary?
Yeah, or an obituary, or just maybe we could talk to his family and get something and get, something to.
Yeah, that was good. All right.
He was pretty active with the school, I guess. I know he was pretty active with the town in his younger days, and reading his obituary. He's at his obituaries at Ginley Crowley in Medway, which has it all listed, but I just think we should acknowledge him some other way other than just posting his obituary.
Whoever knew him best on the commission, send me a quote that I can add into the obituary, right? About his contributions to the Historical Society, or whatever you want to.
Yeah, that's why I wish Steve was still on here, because he knows how long he's been on. I don't know.
Oh,
I think I can find out how long he's been on, because we go back through annual reports that will tell us how long he's been a part
Franco,
of it.
do you know?
I don't remember the exact.
I think it's only been a couple of years, because I think when we were starting to talk about the Mass Memories Roadshow, he was recently appointed. So that was probably 2 years ago, is my guess. Steve, is that you?
Hello.
Hi, Steve, is that you?
Yes. Yeah, I called in.
Okay, great. Thanks. Sorry about that.
You might have to add me back in, like, for the next one too, if it's a series.
Yeah. So we were discussing how to properly honor Bob Donahue, and we were talking about doing something in some kind of a press release in the bulletin, or some kind of a memorial in the Bellingham bulletin. So we
figured that you knew him a lot more than we did, because he approached you, and you probably knew him from St. Brendan's and stuff. So,
honestly, I didn't know him well.
Oh, you didn't?
No, I first met him. I was giving a historical presentation about the town of Bellingham, and he asked if I'd be interested in being on the commission. And that was in January 2020. That was the first time I met him.
Okay.
Oh, I thought you knew him from way back.
I really think he's only been on the commission for a couple of years. Is that correct, Franco? Is that?
I think he'd only been on for like a single term, a single 3-year thing.
Right.
Oh, okay. I thought he had been on for a long time.
No, I think he was in play. So, but I can find out the dates, and I think we can draft something. And maybe if we each have something to input into a story, we can, and make a story out of it, make something to.
All right. Well, you know what? If everybody wants to send me whatever they want to say, I can put it together into a remembrance format and throw it in the paper.
That'd be great.
Okay,
All right?
Yep.
Okay.
sounds good. All right. Does anybody have anything else? Because we're getting close on time.
Nope.
Nobody's got anything else? I'll entertain a motion from someone to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion's made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, ayes have it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Again,
everybody.
I apologize for cutting you off, Steve.
No problem.
Good night.
It was a little bit of a panic trying to prevent something bad from happening there.
I
Bye-bye.
appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.